So, I've got a question for anyone listening. Are you interested in a modern film featuring animals with no dialogues in a boat going through what seems to be an existential crisis?
Was the boat having an existential crisis?
No, no,
Maybe.
no. Okay. Well, then you'll like the 2024 film Flow featuring animated animals, and it's totally up your alley.
What?
Yeah.
That's Audrey.
I'll cut it. Stop. But did you know that it was made in a free piece of software that you could install on your computer and just basically make this movie yourself? Or that there were no storyboards for the movie? How did they even make it? Learn about all this and more as we're hoofing it in Hollywood. The birds and the beasts are on the screen. They're the ones that you have seen. You've watched them since childhood as they're hoofing it in Hollywood.
Boom, 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 boom.
Hello, I am your host, Paul, and with me today I have my co-host, Jordan,
Hi, Paul.
Melissa,
Hi, Paul.
and Audrey.
Meow. I have a confession. This is my least favorite part of the fucking podcast.
Just practice a little in front of the mirror.
Yeah, hi.
Hello. Hi. Hi.
Oh, me? My name is Audrey. So, disclaimer for this episode, this is a very, very recent film, 2024, so there's gonna be spoilers. If you don't want to hear any spoilers, skip this episode. Not really. Watch the movie.
Don't skip
back.
it. Watch the movie at the same time as you're listening to this.
Oh, do that.
It's a companion piece.
No, that's not fair to the movie. Watch the movie, then listen.
That's true.
But also, it is a fully animated feature. There are no animals to talk about history-wise. But just because it's so relevant and it's such an awesome film, we decided to do Flow. Take it away, Jordan.
For everybody, what is one word you would use to describe this movie and nobody can say flow?
I got one. Captivating.
Nice.
Good word. I feel like it was captivating to all who watched, including our very difficult to please toddler.
My word for the movie has to be teamwork because, they all had to work together.
You may not even know how right you are.
My word would be meditative because I found this perfect spot on my couch where if I lean back, it's like I'm entering into the movies himself, and watching this film was just an exercise on meditation.
Not Audrey shaking her head.
This way of sitting on the couch, everyone has sat like this on the couch, and Paul recently discovered it. And it's like somehow he's found the best way to sit. And it's like, buddy, we've been sitting like this since we were born.
Anyway, all good words, guys. Mine was hopeful.
Aw.
That's a good word too.
Yeah, thanks. Flow. Flow was a 2024 family adventure film. Get this, directed by, edited by, co-written by, co-produced by, co-composed by Gens Zilbalotis. So this guy did almost everything, but he did have a company helping him out. Some of the co-writers were Matisse Kaza and Ron Dyens. And the animal stars in here didn't really have any names. The main ones, though, was a cat and a Labrador, a secretary bird, a ring-tailed lemur, and a capybara. And there were no humans in this movie. In the box office, the budget of this film was only around $3.4 million.
Oh, wow.
So when I said this guy did it all, he did a lot of it. This was largely a low-budget indie film. It made about $4.6 million in the U.S. and Canada, and about $36 million worldwide.
Mr. Worldwide!
Mr. 419.
You blew out your mic for that.
Yeah, you did.
It was worth it.
Okay. It was the most viewed theatrical film in Latvian history. Of all films in Latvian history.
That's crazy.
That is.
And then it won several awards, and this blows my mind. It was up against Inside Out 2 for the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature Film. And it won. It won an Oscar.
Damn.
It was the first Latvian film ever to win an Oscar, and it did it against Pixar. So I wanted to talk about Gent himself, the creator of this, and talk about Latvia a little bit because I didn't really know much about Latvia. So let's go. Latvia is a Baltic country, one of 3 Baltic countries. Not many people in the country, relatively speaking. The capital city population is around 600,000, and it's known for its thriving art scene and its Art Nouveau architecture. Gent Zalabidis, he was born in 1994. How old does that make you feel, some of us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got an Academy Award already? Ugh.
Yeah, he's doing it. He taught himself Flash animation when he was in school and was making, like goofy Flash animations like I think a lot of us probably were in the 90s. He made a bunch of short films in high school, and he made a film called Rush and a short film called Aqua. And Aqua is about a cat who is afraid of water and learns how to get through his fear of water, which would eventually become the inspiration for this movie, Flow. His first independent feature film was called Away, and we're talking about truly independent. He did everything on this himself. And he quoted in this interview saying that filmmaking helps him express his emotions because in real life he has trouble expressing them like externally. He's not very good at saying what he means to say or like getting his intentions across. And so he wasn't expecting the response that this movie got. And so he said he's really, really happy with the response because that means that other people are connecting to him because that movie is him by extension. He identified a lot with the cat in Flow. He felt very independent. He felt that like maybe other people would slow him down or they wouldn't be able to like translate his thoughts correctly or just, it's just so much easier to control it himself. And so he said that this movie was a way to get through that and to value the input of others and to be able to let go of control, like release that control and let others come in and help and find that it's actually not as bad as he would have thought it was.
Yeah, I saw something where he talked about how a lot of this movie was about the journey of, working independently, working as a group, and also showing that neither of those are perfect. And like there are extreme cases where cooperation doesn't work or where independent work doesn't work, but there are like also strengths to both. And I just thought that was really cool.
He used the dog as an example of the polar opposite of the cat. The dog is there and just wants to help everybody. It trusts everybody. But by the end, he also learns that he can be more independent and like go off on his own, leaves his group. And so, yeah, telling the story that even though they may be opposed in the movie, they're not necessarily bad. And it's good to have both. Okay, so let's talk about the movie a little bit. The animal rules that I've been doing, again, these are pretty typical animals. They have no voices. They don't talk. Apparently they can steer a raft. But other than that, they're just animals and they kind of have like a kinship or a connection to each other, which would not also be seen in the natural world, but just animals, so there's no voices or anything. And we open on a cat living alone in the forest, looking at its reflection in water, and the water's trembling. The trembling in this particular case not only is figurative, but it's also because a stampede of deer is coming. And so the cat has to escape these deer. And the deer are running from this huge flood that basically just wipes everything out. And the cat kind of gets swept away in the flood and has to escape and keeps climbing higher and higher as this flood waters keep rising. And at first the cat meets a Labrador and they form kind of like a precarious friendship, but eventually the cat escapes alone on a boat with a capybara on it, which who knows where this capybara came from, but
I don't know, but he's cute.
He was just there, dude.
When I was in high school, I had to give a 5-minute speech in Spanish about capybaras.
Oh.
What did you talk about?
Can you do the whole speech right now?
I talked about that they lived on mountainsides.
No, you gotta do it in Spanish.
Yeah, you gotta do it in Spanish too.
On la montaña. I don't remember.
I have a theory. Do you want to know my theory?
Yeah.
Because it's so geographically spread, I think the animals were in a zoo.
Oh.
Okay, so as the voyage progresses, again, the cat has just been kind of running away from this flood, finding safe havens, but like the flood is relentless and it just keeps rising. And There's a couple times I thought the cat was going to die.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Later, the ring-tailed lemur joins the party. A Labrador joins the party as this boat is still floating around. So got a pretty full boat. They find a secretary bird, they're really weird-looking birds.
They're cool looking, though.
I thought it was... Yeah, I thought it was like fake at first, but then you look up photos and you're like, oh shit, no.
I did the same thing. I was like, I didn't know that was a real bird.
So it seemed like the secretary birds had a pretty close-knit flock, but the one that they kind of met this little solitary secretary bird and sort of befriended it, and then it came back because the flock was there and kind of threatening this group, and the secretary bird that they had met before felt bad for them and stood in and kind of like blocked the other birds from attacking them. And so in a really brutal scene, like the main, I guess, dominant secretary bird pushes the other secretary bird down and breaks its wing by stepping on it.
Yeah.
That was the worst. That was my least favorite scene.
So that was actually my favorite scene because when... Well, hear me out. It was my favorite scene because like the whole time you're watching the film, you're seeing like all these... Like, they look like animals being animals throughout the whole film. And it's just like, okay, maybe a cat could get in a boat like this. Maybe they could partner up. Maybe this is how they would all react with each other. But that was the moment where, like, it clicked. Like, I was like, oh, shit. Okay, I know what this guy's going for now.
I could see that.
So along the way, now that they're all together, there are various trials that test their resolve, test their teamwork. They get in a big fight because the lemur is like collects all this stuff. And at one point, I think the bird kicks off one of the lemur's favorite things, and they get in this big fight, and they get stuck in this tree, but then a whale breaches, this humongous whale, and pushes the boat off the tree, and they kind of escape and keep going on their journey. And other things happen, like the cat actually learns how to fish without dying and starts offering the food that it catches to its friends. The next big thing that happens is a huge storm. And it's really hard for them all to stay on board on the ship. The cat falls overboard, and the bird has flown off to these big pillars. The cat goes up to the top of these pillars, and all of a sudden, the strangest part of the movie happens where they both experience weightlessness. You can see drops of water from the storm are rising, and a bright portal opens above them, and they both start to ascend into this portal. The cat doesn't make the ascension and comes back down to Earth, but the secretary bird does ascend into the portal and disappears. And is gone for the rest of the film.
Did you all assume that represented the secretary bird dying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it died.
Okay, yeah. Me too.
That's probably the climax of the movie. The cat returns and pretty quickly is swept away by the floodwaters again. He trying to find his friends. His friends are way too far away in the boat by now. And then suddenly the waters just start to recede. Massive cracks open in the ground, and it starts to drain. So the flood is going away. The cat finds his friends again. The boat is in a tree, just stuck up at the top of the tree, and they all escape. Moments before the boat comes crashing down and just dips into one of those chasms. Another deer stampede happens now, and they all run away. The cat gets separated from his friends again and comes upon the whale that had helped them earlier. And the whale is beached now that the flood is gone and basically dying because there's no water. And then looks at its own reflection again in the water. So a full circle from where we started. But this time the water's still placid, and he sees his friends' reflections all around him, which was like the really sweet part of the movie.
It was. I loved that scene.
That was actually, I wrote down that was my favorite scene, I feel like, of the movie, just because what you said, Jordan, came full circle, like from where they started to where they ended up like working together, and then just that it's all their reflections, like looking back at each other, and it shows that they're all like different animals that come from different, areas, whatever, that had to come together.
Yeah. I really liked that scene too.
Yeah, especially when you compare it to the first reflection where he's distorted and shaky and trembling.
So I was wondering, do you think that they were implying at the end that another flood was coming?
That's what I was wondering, or like almost like the flooding happens like periodically or something.
Here's my theory. I think there's tsunamis caused by earthquakes, and I think that's why there's chasms in the ground. I think there's just a lot of earthquakes going on. What?
No, I'm just laughing bringing the science background into it. I was thinking something more like nature was fighting back. And so it was because like the whale itself is like magical. It's not like a real whale.
Yeah, can we talk about how creepy that whale was? Like it was, it wasn't like a regular whale.
And with like the architecture that you see throughout the film with like all the giant cat statues that focus on animals, I was thinking that this was like nature was reclaiming itself by trying to wipe and do like a mass flood.
Yes.
And like maybe that's where the whale kind of came from as like some sort of
like a Mother Nature Noah's flood.
Kind of, yeah. That was my thought. But then hearing you talk like
I also thought earthquakes. I thought like volcanoes and earthquakes or something.
But I like your like thoughts, Paul, because I didn't really think along those lines either. But now that you said that, like that makes sense.
I mean, it could be both.
It could be.
It could be like
it could be.
The earthquake tsunami is the method to achieve the goal that Paul is talking about.
But the other thing is, did anyone see the after the credits scene?
Yes.
That's why I think our flood came.
Yeah. So in the post-credit scene, the whale comes out, surfaces on the ocean. And is it the same whale?
That's the thing.
Sure
it could have been
whale?
like...
I mean, I don't know, but also I noticed the bright sun was behind it, and the bright sun was there when the secretary bird ascended. It like sort of ascended into what looked like a bright sun to me. So I wondered if the whale was ascending as well.
Oh, that could have been it too.
But it didn't get like the weird anti-gravity. But of course, a whale doesn't fly, so maybe only the secretary bird would go that way. I don't know.
Or maybe that's heaven. Maybe that's the other side of the portal, dude.
I just thought, I guess I thought the stampede was just kind of like the reverse of what had happened the first time. Like they were running away from the flood the first time, and then now they're running away from like the receding flood waters. Like they're running back to wherever they came from.
Everything's up for interpretation, which is why this movie is great.
That's why this movie's awesome. I feel like everyone had their own kind of takeaway from it, and yeah.
But that's all I got, Paul.
All right. What's that? It's Creature Chronicles. Okay. So this section is going to be incredibly difficult because there aren't any real animal actors in this animated film. So I actually have nothing to talk about, and I'm turning it over to Audrey to do some movie magic.
Bye, Paul.
No. I do have a little bit to go off of. But with so many animated animals, I'm going to talk a little bit about their personalities, a little bit why they chose them, and a little bit about how they got to where they did with them. So get ready for some verbal gymnastics because there's 5 animals to talk about. There is a cat, a dog, capybara, lemur, and secretary bird. So let's talk a little bit about personality, animal-wise. What do you guys think of when you think of a black cat?
Cute.
Mystical.
I think of a black cat as being like kind of, in my mind, like sassy or like clever.
I think of them as mischievous.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit like loners and, depending in some culture, just evil, basically.
What? No.
Witches could turn into a black cat and like do witch things.
Hocus pocus.
They get a bad rap, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. But they're precious babies.
They are.
They are precious babies. So then you got a yellow lab. They're people pleasers. They want to be in a group, in a pack. We've got our lemurs, which are very social. They're vocal. They like to collect stuff, but I didn't find anything about them like collecting objects. It was more that they collect a lot of like berries and fruits and stuff, and they steal like fermented alcohols and stuff like that.
Whoa.
Also, the thing that the director said was that because people know dogs and cats so well,
took some liberties.
They had to make those animals like very true to form, but they had a little bit of leeway with the secretary bird and the lemur and the capybara because people don't really see them that many times, so they could get away with a little bit more.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Because when I was looking up secretary birds, apparently they just hang out in duels. Like, it's just 2 birds together. It's not like a whole flock, basically. So, not that ruins that scene by any means, but it was just one of those things where I was like, oh, whoa. So, like, it's good to know that they kind of, like, acknowledged that they were interpreting that, and they were also driving a fucking boat. So, I mean, it's not
the capybara knew how to steer that boat.
Yeah. And then the capybara.
Unknown. Tomato. It's however you want to say it.
Capybara.
Capybara.
You have to roll the R, Paul.
A capybara. are very gentle and sociable large rodents, and they're always like adaptable and calm, which I think they nailed throughout this movie. But just some really quick, interesting notes about the lemur. Apparently, I wish they would have put this in the film. They have stink fights where they have scent glands that they rub into their tails to make basically like smelly swords, and then they like battle each other with their tails.
What?
Smelly swords.
Yeah, dude.
Amazing. Smelly sword battles.
So we got screwed out of that scene, which sucks. And then also, this is another quick note about the capybaras. I saw that, like, in Japan, they have, like, hot tub parties for them where they, like, fill water full of citrus.
I've seen that, yeah.
I wish we could have gotten that, too. Finally, the secretary birds actually have, like, a super powerful kick to, like, kill rattlesnakes. They've got something against, or not rattlesnakes, against snakes.
Well, because it looks like they're from South Africa, so I'm guessing...
It's one of their biggest predators.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have like a Chungling hurricane kick, and basically they can kick the force of 5 times their body weight, under 15 milliseconds. So
damn.
Like, that wing snap, dude, was real. Let's talk a little bit about why they actually chose the animals. And I want to toss this question to you guys. Why do you think the director chose these specific animals? I mean, there's an entire earth full of animals.
I know something about why he chose the capybara that I think is really interesting. So he chose the capybara because, this movie was made at the height of COVID. And around this time, people were like all about capybaras and sharing videos of them and stuff. And he thought that people were using them as like a way to escape and find peace in their own lives. And so he felt like it would be really valuable in this role.
That makes sense because it worked. I mean...
Wow, I had no idea.
To play off of that, he thought it would be funny to have a character like this because capybaras were cool with like predators and like non-predators. Basically, they worked with like any type of animal. So he thought it would be like a perfect puzzle piece to slot in because he would be the peacekeeper.
Oh yeah, I saw an interview where he called them like the hippies of the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, did he just pick the different animals to kind of show different like personality traits, kind of?
Yep. I have a quote of him saying, "I was looking at different animals and thinking of the different chemistry that might arise from putting them together. What sort of conflicts, what kind of comedy could arise from those interactions." So, you are spot on, Melissa.
I win.
But also interesting that basically the Black Cat is the director himself experiencing how to work with an entire team. So it fits very well with the cat's personality, which is always going to be a loner, or probably going to be a loner trying to fit in with a pack.
Exactly.
The yellow Labrador retriever is trusting everyone and needing to actually learn to be independent, which is, I think, 100% spot on as well. So finally, he focused on the bird and the lemur because those two, as you were seeing them, they were part of a group and they were constantly trying to fit in with the group. Like the secretary bird was trying to protect the cat, but also was being alienated from his group by doing that. And then the lemur was constantly trying to gather stuff and show it to his friends to be like, hey, look I'm a good collector too. But neither of them were getting the validation that they needed from their counterparts. So like they were the found family portion of this, where they were accepted for being who they were.
Love it.
Found family too, I just have to say, is one of my favorite tropes in
Mine
things.
too. It's my favorite. I love it.
And I feel like that last shot with them in the reflection is like that. It's just like, How did this... They had like an Avengers shot of them at the end. It was cool. One thing that's kind of interesting is geographically, these animals wouldn't all come together naturally. So that's another thing that makes the choice of these different animals just a blast, because you get to see them interact in ways that you just normally wouldn't be able to anticipate. Now we're going to talk about why these animals felt so real. There was a lot of background into capturing the likeness of these animals. A lot of people use their own pet cats to capture the motion of them. They just watched their cats and tried to mimic that in the animation. They also spent hours watching YouTube videos of cats as well. So a lot of the domesticated animals had just animators using their own real-life animals for that. But then something like the lemurs, they actually went to a zoo. They were hanging out with them, trying to capture their movements. And that's what I think makes this movie so realistic, is that it's the little things. Like, they put a lot of time trying to nail the eye movement of the animals because that's what speaks to you. That's what makes it feel like it's a cat that's in your house.
Right, yeah, because they can't actually talk, so they had to have that expression.
Yeah. They decidedly chose to render the animals with less detail. They tried to make them really flat looking, which is really kind of odd when you watch the movie because the background's vibrant and then these animals are intentionally flat. And the director actually did that on purpose because he was quoted as saying, if you don't add too much detail to the characters, I think the audience can kind of project their own experience on these gaps and see their own cat within this character. So he was intentionally trying to make it something that felt like it was a part of you as well. Like you could see yourself or you could even see our pets in this. I thought that was cool too.
Yeah, I like that.
At first, I thought it was weird to me, but now that you're explaining that, that makes sense that it was purposeful. But when I first started, I'm like, why are these backgrounds so detailed and look real? And then the animals look a little like PS2 graphics or something.
Yeah. Talking about like what they artificially kind of built upon. Yes, these were based off their real life counterparts and they tried to, nail the sound as best they could in the movement, but there was some anthropomorphism that did take place. The director specifically said, like, hey, we're telling a story, so the tone is going to stay grounded and emotionally real, but we're not mimicking nature. We're interpreting it into something. We're turning it into a performance. This allowed them to give personalities, values, and beliefs to the actual animals in the movie themselves. And then it also helps the audiences understand the actions that they take. You see it in little things like their facial expressions sometimes seem a little bit more human than what you would expect. Them driving the boat is another great example. Like, how would they know how to fucking drive a boat? But they can. So while there were no actual animal actors in this film, it doesn't mean that they weren't based on some real life counterparts or that they didn't have voice actors that they captured the audio from. There was a voice actor I was actually able to track down. The sound designer's cat was actually used to voice the black cat. And it was a ginger tabby cat named Minute.
Aww.
That's so cute. That's cute.
So finally, let's talk about this motherfucking whale. The first time you see this whale, it comes out of the water and you're like, that's a fucking whale. You see one fin, you see two fins, and then you see 50 fins pop up and you're like, what the hell is this thing? Because this is not what I'm used to. And so the director said that it was intentional to make something more mystical. They wanted to make something completely frightening. So I don't know. I thought that was really cool. And I think that was another little detail that made this world feel so fantastic and just not real compared to our world. And
yeah, I love that you couldn't really place it. None of the buildings were consistent. Some were more ancient, some were not. Some look Japanese, some look Greek.
Yep.
Yeah. I went with the whole background that we were destroying the earth and somehow mutated the whale, and this was Mother Nature striking back. That's why that's how I saw the whale in my head, but I also play games like that. So, but anyways, that's all I have for Creature Chronicles. I'll now turn it over to Audrey for some movie magic.
Get ready for movie magic.
Okay. Let's start. I don't know why I'm doing
Please finish. Please do it like that.
Do the entire segment with that voice.
Just straight. Just do it straight.
Every time I'm just I know she's going to regret this in 2 seconds. She's going to regret it and she's going to bounce.
The only way it works is if you do it straight for your entire segment.
Let's start with a quiz. No.
Let's start with a whale of a tail.
Let's start with the tail of the whale of a tail. Okay, here we go. So we're going to start with a little quiz. Can you guess the 2 biggest technical challenges in animating this movie?
Trying to nail those animals so that they look real. Realism.
Paul says real animals.
So you said for the animation part?
Yeah, the 2 biggest technical challenges for animating this movie.
Getting the shit to render on a budget.
I don't know. I don't have a guess.
All right. You weren't really right. The first one.
Wow.
Jesus. Last time we answer your quiz, damn.
The first one was water. So he was thankful he had people who understood the physics of it and could code it. And I'll talk more about the water and why it was so challenging later. And the other one that really surprised me was that there were several long takes where the camera kept moving without cuts. I think about that in live action movies, but I never thought about that being a challenge in an animated movie. But part of it had to do with the rendering, like Jordan talked about to a degree, and I'll talk a little bit more about that too. I'm going to start out with a little bit about the method of creating the movie and why he made some of the creative decisions he did. So one of them is like, why use 3D? He said it was because he tried 2D and felt like he wasn't really good at drawing. So 3D would be better because he could just model the animals, which I don't know. I thought it was interesting how a lot of his decisions had to do with stuff like that. It's just like, well, I wasn't really good at that or whatever, so I chose this other way.
No, I think that's genius.
I do
mean,
too.
That's using the medium to your advantage, whatever works for you.
Yeah, he isn't someone who can visualize detailed scenes and storyboard. He needs to discover the scenes, which is a major contrast to The Bear, which, as you may remember, the director had like massive binders of storyboards translated in multiple languages. But anyway, so he would make the 3D environment and just sort of like pick up the camera and explore it. And that's how he got ideas for scenes. And so that made it like spontaneous and intuitive. And to Jordan's point about rendering, apparently Blender, the tool that he used to make this, apparently has something called Eevee, which is a rendering engine that works with real-time feedback. So he could like change the lighting, change different things, move the camera, and get like a real-time, almost like a live action shoot.
Oh, very cool.
And that's probably how he got some of those boss camera angles, dude. Like, I've never seen those in a film before, and it's because he did it in the 3D environment, dude. That's insane.
And one of the things I was going to talk about actually is that with the challenge of rendering, of like the computers being able to handle what they were doing, generally they'd choose a camera angle, and once he chose it, then they would build out the environment, because they couldn't build out the environment beyond that, or else it would be too much for the computer to handle. So he would like choose the camera angles, and then they would build it out in more detail. Like someone else would come in and fill it out.
He said, like, if you were to like pan the camera to the side, you wouldn't see anything over there. It was like, oh, the camera's basically set perfect for like everything.
Mm-hmm. So why did he choose no dialogue? Partly Jordan hinted at this, where he talked about like not like it's easier for him to express himself through the other parts of film, but also he feels like other people can fill in more of their experiences using the tools of cinema, like cuts and camera angles, visuals, body language, music, editing, using all that to tell the story. And he feels it allows him to tell like a deeper story that people can fill in because there's not the dialogue filling it in for them, sort of. And I also thought it was interesting because he talked about how he used music to help him tell the story. So like he would make the music, compose the music as he was shooting a scene, and then like go back and forth sort of, because it helped him tell the story.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And he talked about how with the cat and the bird in the sky scene that we talked about, he knew that that was going to happen, but he didn't know how to get the cat and the bird into the place where they needed to be. And he found a piece of music that like told him what to do, basically. Like he was like, okay, this is how I'm going to do it.
Whoa.
That's awesome.
And then, of course, he had a composer who came in and like filled out the music based on what he had done. But I thought that was super interesting. There was one quote by him that I really liked, and I feel like I didn't realize it until reading this quote. But he says, if you design everything exactly like it sounds like in real life, it would not feel real. It would take you out of the experience. Sometimes you need to be creative to make it feel more real. And I just thought that was a really interesting perspective. So, into the animal animation and creating the animals and voices. In the interviews, the director mentioned 2 of the best jobs that had to do with preparing to animate the animals. Can you guess what they were?
Did they get to pet them?
Close, yeah.
I was going to say just getting to spend time with the real animals, like so they could base the drawings off of them. Close.
Looking up YouTube videos.
Okay, close. So one of them was tickling a capybara.
Oh,
Yes.
And the other one was the animators who spent literal hours watching cat videos on YouTube to like figure out how to animate them.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I could have filled in that slot real easily.
Yeah, so he said those were probably the best jobs on the film. But anyway, so for the animal animation, they modeled the characters in 3D directly there. They didn't like draw them ahead of time, but everything was hand drawn and they didn't use any motion capture in this movie, which when you think about it is very impressive because the animals do move so realistically. So the animal voices, Paul talked about the cat. That's how they did the cat. For the capybara, the only way to really get them to make noise is to tickle them. And so one person's job was to tickle the capybara.
Oh.
But then when they did it, the sound was really high-pitched and sounded like an anxious small dog. And they were like, we can't use this sound. Like, this is not gonna work for this movie.
Wait, so is that not really how they sound in the movie?
Can you guess what animal it actually voiced the capybara?
I feel like I know, but I can't think of it right now. Was it like a cow or something?
It was a camel.
It was a camel?
Oh.
Camel.
A baby.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, baby camel. You were close, but not quite. The lemur, they went to the zoo to learn how they move, and it was like a zoo where, as the director described it, the lemurs could like crawl on them, I guess. I don't know. So they let it move around and listen to them, but they only use like 3 sounds, so they supplemented the lemur sounds with small monkey sounds as well. The bird voice, the original sound that a secretary bird makes is too scary, and the bird was already scary, so he found different sounds for the birds to make. But like, yeah, in real life, they're like, ah. Like they sound kind of like, that wasn't a good impression. They sound like dinosaurs. It's like,
I was just gonna say, they're basically a fucking dinosaur. Like,
They were kind of terrifying in the movie.
yeah.
yeah. Oh, I forgot. I found a link for the actual sound so you can listen to it.
Oh, no. It's
It's only coming out of one headphone, so it's just like something.
That's what's freaking me out. It's coming out of my right.
It's coming
ear,
out of my
and
left
It sounds
ear.
like somebody's whispering in my ear.
no.
Dude,
I hate
holy-
that. I'm so glad that didn't make that noise.
Could you imagine if you were going out to record like the birds and that was the first thing you heard and you're like, well, we can't fucking use this.
Yeah, there's no way.
Can you imagine not knowing and just like, I don't know, going on vacation and then just going to sleep and then hearing that?
Okay. Thank you for participating in this episode of What the Fuck is
Holy
That
cow.
Sound? Okay. And final thing, for one sound in this movie, it was a version of a tiger. Do you know what sound was voiced by a tiger?
Was it the whale?
It was the whale!
Whoa, good job, Mel.
But I think it was just the part where he was breathing on land. Like, he was like trying to find something to make that sound, and obviously he couldn't like find a whale. So he just kind of started looking around and listening to different animal sounds, and he found a video of like this old tiger who was having some breathing trouble or something. I don't know.
You know, they nailed it, by the way, because like I never once questioned that it wasn't a whale. Like,
Same.
I didn't question that it wasn't a whale, but I was like, oh god, whales sound weird when they're breathing on land.
because I only know him to do like that sound. So like,
Well, yeah, it requires water to make that sound.
mhm, yeah, exactly, yeah. But like, I never once questioned it. I don't know.
Oh, geez. Wow. Do you think if you were talking to a whale that they'd have to be in like a giant fish bowl so that you could hear them properly?
I mean,
Maybe.
I guess we would have to go underwater.
yeah.
Well, watch Star Trek 4 because they talk to whales all the time in that. So
Oh,
I
okay.
think that, yeah, they might have used like technology though.
Interesting. Okay. So then the last animal sound.
Fuck you, Paul. Next question.
Sorry. The last animal sound was a fish. They weren't quite sure what to do because the fish don't really make a sound. So he said he took some compressed air and put it under the water and just like moved around near a mic. And that's how they got the sound for the fish. Okay, so those are the animals. And then there was the environment. This is one of the things watching the movie again that was fascinating, is that the sound environments and the water movement reflects what the cat is feeling at the time. And I did not pick up on that the first time. So if you listen, when the cat finds refuge to nap in the abandoned home, the environment is like beautiful, safe-sounding natural sounds, birds, insects. But then when the cat's traveling away, the sound changes, the backgrounds change, and it gets like more mysterious and scary for a while. And so even though it sort of sounded natural, it really wasn't. It was like representing the cat's emotions. And same thing with the water, is more turbid when the cat is upset and calm when the cat is calm. So both the water and the sound really represented the cat's feelings. And the water was one of the first things I started, one of the last things I finished, technically super challenging. You need a different approach to animate a splash versus calm water versus stormy ocean, etc., etc. So they had like a different tool in Blender that they created for every type of water.
I tried to make a coffee cup in Blender and I got mad and stopped because it's so fucking hard. Yeah. So to hear that they're doing all this stuff with water, it just blows my mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you guys say is Blender like just free? Like anybody can download it?
It's totally free.
Open source.
Yeah.
So the other thing that he pointed out is that he left clues in the background as to what happened to the humans. So he said that he left clues for the audience to figure out why we aren't seeing the humans. It suggests there was a flood before and that there might be a flood later. The humans escaped and left these animals to fend for themselves, is the quote.
Oh, poor animals.
Yeah, it seems like what humans would do.
Yep.
Do you have anything else, Audrey?
That is the end of Movie Magic.
I'll now turn it over to Melissa to do some fun stuff.
All aboard for audience anecdotes.
Holy shit.
Okay. It's animal reviews time. Nope, don't like that.
It's staying in.
It's animal reviews time.
It's going animal review time.
Time to review the animals. Terrible review time.
You had like a little twing on it.
Okay, it's time for animal reviews. What did you guys think of all of the animals' performances? The rating scale I came up with for this episode is going to be out of 5 trinkets or shiny items, like the items that the lemur put in his little basket. 'Cause, I don't know, I thought it would be cute. So yeah, that's going to be the rating scale. What did you guys think of? And as their performance as a whole, you could elaborate on a couple individuals if you want, or yeah, just as a whole.
Well, I thought that the cat and the dog were, again, I think like the guy said, super familiar to us. And so the little things that they added for them to actually act like cats and dogs, and you're like, oh yeah, that's typical cat or typical dog, and made it really, really fun to watch the movie without it feeling too family-friendly kid stuff. I give them, the dog and the cat, 5 trinkets, and the rest of the supporting cast probably 3 because they cheated and they did things that they don't usually do.
I feel the same way as Jordan. I would say 5 trinkets for the cat and the dog. 4 trinkets for the secretary bird, just because it was really cool, even though it didn't sound like a creepy dinosaur like it should have. And then, 3 trinkets for the rest, because they couldn't just be themselves, and that's sad.
Yeah. I don't know if I went on that journey. I would definitely say 5 trinkets for the cat, for sure. But I might be like a basic bitch this time and just be 5 trinkets for everything, because I just, with them having animated these animals, it was like I got to see all of them. I got to see personalities out of them. I got to see them interact. Like, this is what I want from like a film with animals. Granted, it's animated, but like, yeah.
1 trinket for that stupid jerk ass secretary bird that broke the other one's wing.
Oh yeah, and those other lemurs can fuck off. 0 trinkets for them.
Yeah, the like judgmental lemurs with like their hats and their necklaces,
crowns and shit.
I loved them. I'm sorry, I loved those lemurs. We didn't even talk about them, but they were amazing. The mean lemurs.
I'm gonna go with what Paul said, and I don't know. I don't think it's a cop out, but I'm giving all of them 5 trinkets. The highlight of this movie being no dialogue, so just like the bear. So you're really relying on seeing the animators put emotions and that kind of stuff into the animals. And I think they did such a great job to where you feel for them. You know exactly what they're going through. They nailed everything that the cat did. It was perfect.
Yeah. And that's why it didn't bother me when they were controlling the boat, because it was like, well, maybe that's how they would control a boat. Like, I mean, it still kind of looks like a capybara controlling a boat. So
You're right. Like, and I don't know if that they did that on purpose, but even when the bird was kind of controlling it too, it was the same thing where it just seemed natural.
it worked enough. Yeah.
Now we're going to take a look at some audience reviews, and I went over to RottenTomatoes.com again to check out their popcorn meter, and it gives the movie a 98% average rating, which
Wow.
I believe is the highest rating we've seen so far on this podcast. So the first review is from Hannah B. She gave it 5 stars and said, "It's not just a film, it's a work of art. The story is wonderful, and the animation and music are stunningly gorgeous. It leaves you feeling you've been part of a piece of immersive art. It will go down as one of the best animated films in history." Yeah,
Agreed.
I thoroughly agree with that.
I think it's also enjoyable in that it's so unique and fresh. So it feels like not only immersive, but like just new. And so it feels like it's exciting to get behind because it is like nothing you've ever seen. So
Immersive would have been another great
Yeah.
word to
really good
describe the
word.
movie. And also immersive, like you're going it like immersed in water. Like double meaning.
Good job, Hannah B. Knock it out of the park with that. The second review is from Ivana J, who also gave it 5 stars.
Take my laugh out. I want to jack off.
say about to check off.
I want to J.
Is that from something or?
No, I don't know. Like I want to fuck a lot.
Yeah,
Wasn't that from, was it Austin Powers or something?
Yeah, I think it was Austin Powers.
It was Austin
but it's
Powers.
also just like an old joke, I feel
Yeah,
like.
like Ivana.
I think I knew. Like I think I heard that joke when I was like a kid.
Ketchup and liquor, dude.
No,
Yeah.
I haven't heard ketchup
no.
and liquor in a
Rubber
long
buns.
time. Wait, what,
Rubber buns
Jordan?
and liquor. Wait, what?
You've never heard ketchup and liquor?
Ketchup and liquor.
I always heard rubber buns and liquor.
Oh.
Maybe that was the Kansas
What are you
version.
having
Yeah.
for dinner? Rubber buns and liquor. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same joke, yeah.
The second review is from Ivana J. who ga-
Like rubber buns aren't even real. Rubber buns
I-
aren't real.
I was fine until I heard Paul go.
Do you want me to not say her name?
No, I was just thinking of rubber buns. I was
Oh shit. Okay, sorry. Mel.
Okay, everybody either mute or
I
shut
blew
the fuck
snot
up.
out of my nose on that last one.
Ew!
I'm muting.
The second review is from Ivana J, and she gave it 5 stars. Audrey, mute yourself! Jesus Christ. Ivana J said, "I put it on for my cat and I was going to watch a bit with her, but stayed for the whole thing. We both loved it. LOL." I thought that was so cute that she put it on for her cat and then
And
she
we know
stayed.
she's a millennial because she put LOL at the end.
Correct.
Wasn't that a thing though? Weren't they saying like that animals were really interested in this film too? So like
Our animals were not.
I don't remember if I just watched it or not.
I also found a couple of reviews from Letterboxd, and the movie had an average rating of 4.1 stars out of 5. Nat gave it a 5-star and said, "I will suck the ocean dry with a straw for that cat."
Wow.
I really thought that was going a different
Yeah.
direction.
When I started to read the review, I also went, what?
I was
The last review we have is from Rendy Jones, who gave it a 4-star and said, "Most of you want to be like that cool capybara, but in reality, you're, myself included, like that klepto, self-absorbed lemur." Okay.
fair enough.
Which animal did you guys feel the most connection to?
That's a good question. I feel like I'm a mix of the cat and the capybara, probably, because I don't know, because obviously I have like anxiety like everybody does, but I just feel like, you know, I can be worrisome and like kind of not knowing what's going to happen and kind of, I don't know, kind of like the cat was a little bit, and then the capybara just kind of also didn't give a fuck, which I can be that way too, so I don't know.
I felt a connection to the dog as far as like wanting, just like liking direction. I think that's how I've always worked and everything too, is like I never really wanted to be managing people. I wanted to have somebody say like, hey, I need this done, and I'm just like, okay, I'll do it, kind of like a dog, and could learn some more independence.
I would say I'm the cat because I struggle with working in teams. Well, I'm enjoyable to work with other people. I struggle with like asking for help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
Audrey, what would you be?
I was hoping nobody would notice that I hadn't answered because I don't know.
I would say you're the secretary bird, dude.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Well, no, you're strong and you fight for what's right.
I could see that.
Okay, all right.
Out of everyone here, I feel like you're the person that jumps into a ring to defend people that you've never met.
Okay.
And you've literally done that.
Yeah.
I'll accept it.
It's surprise scenario time, everybody's favorite. So the scenario this time is, imagine this. You're back in 6th grade and you have to give a presentation to the class about floods and how they impact the environment. Which animal are you picking to help you with your project and why?
Good question.
I got it. I would choose the secretary bird because I would have it fly me over areas where there have been floods so that I can firsthand
Oh, dang.
observe and take photos. And that would help me develop my presentation.
That was pretty good. I didn't even think of anything remotely close to that.
I'm not doing my presentation, or I'm waiting till the very last minute and then messing it all up. And so I'm taking the dog because then I can use that old stupid excuse of the dog ate my homework.
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, that's a good one.
The dog ate my floodplain project.
Yeah, sorry.
Man, I went really simple with this. I'm going to probably just choose the cat because I feel like the capybara would just fucking sleep throughout the entire flood, so it couldn't give any type of presentation. Dog wouldn't focus. The cat was like in the middle of it the entire time, so I feel like he's got something to say. And, he's a good case study, so I'm going cat.
In my mind, I almost feel like the dog would be a help, even though, Paul, I know you just said it would get distracted, which it would. But I felt like also the dog had some kind of confidence to it, too, in the movie. And dogs can be very confident, depending on the breed. So I don't know. I just feel like it would kind of help give me maybe like a boost of confidence to like keep working on my project. I'm kind of going more that route. Like,
Okay.
Oh, weird. That's an interesting way to look at it.
maybe it would just be there for moral support, or it would keep me like motivated.
It could also retrieve you like energy drinks.
Oh.
I literally took this question like as if I was in front of a classroom with an animal beside me giving a presentation. So it was like a
No,
cat with a tuxedo.
I like that it was open to interpretation.
No, everyone had a different view of
Much
it.
like this movie.
Yeah.
All right, and now we are at the adopt, take to the no-kill shelter, or taxidermy, or as Jordan calls it, stuffing segment of the show. So the 3 that I have for you guys this time are the whale, the flood itself,
Jesus.
and then the capybara, just because he's my dude.
Oof.
I would send to the no-kill shelter the whale because I'm thinking that, like, if they're struggling with food, they can cut that whale up and feed a lot of animals with it. So
oh my God,
that's
Paul.
a good way of spreading resorces.
I mean, it was a gigantic whale. Like,
It's a no-kill shelter.
Jordan had a very good point that this is a no-kill shelter.
oh, yeah.
Well, it's going to die eventually and we can feed them. So then I'm going to taxidermy the capybara. And then that means I'm going to adopt the flood because I don't even know how I'd go about like raising that thing as my own, but I'd have to figure it out somehow. Like,
Where are you going to put it?
the world, man.
We have Lake Erie.
Lake Erie.
Well, that's like a jump and find out situation. And I want to see, like,
Oof.
how do you even adopt a flood?
You tell
Who
me.
do you go to for the paperwork? Like,
There is no question in my mind that I'm adopting the capybara. Like, I'm gonna
100%.
absolutely adopt the capybara and hang with it as much as I can. I am going to send the whale to the no-kill shelter because it's
to feed all the animals.
It's majestic, and I just want it to be majestic forever. And then I'm taxiderming the flood, and I'm doing that because I'm really curious about the technical challenge of taxidermying a flood, an entire flood.
You freeze dry it like those people freeze dried their golden retrievers all night.
Oh,
That old film.
yeah. I mean, do you freeze dry it? Do I have a shrink ray? Do I need to taxidermy the whole flood or just any droplet of water that was part of the flood?
Oh,
There's so many
yeah.
questions, and that's just an interesting question to explore. You could write a whole dissertation on it.
Okay, well, maybe we're going to take the flood to the no-kill shelter because they can actually use the resources from that as opposed to a whale that they can't kill because they're a no-kill shelter.
Yeah, but then
Really,
like, wouldn't
you're hung up on words here, and I don't think.
but wouldn't the flood like fill the whole no-kill shelter and then kill all the animals?
Well, I'll donate it to no-kill shelters in general, and they can just come and take as much flood as they need.
Take as
And
much
do it.
flood.
Whatever they want to do with it.
Jordan, your version is like no kill shelter, and then after the flood hits, like a sign falls down and it turns into kill shelter because you murdered all those animals by drowning them.
You said immediately that you're going to kill them. There was no sign that dropped. It was just like, kill this whale and feed its remains to the other fish.
Yes.
Cannibalize. All right, so the whale I'm going to taxidermy because it'd be sweet to have a whale just chilling forever, and also adopting the capybara because I did my Spanish 2 research speech on the capybara.
And you would
So I'm
speak
all for it.
Spanish to it?
You know how to
I
do
would.
everything. You know how to do everything for him.
Wait, I got it. If you're adopting the capybara, you can do a little role play session where you're back in that grade and he can help you put together your
He
present.
can
your
help me with my
Spanish
homework.
presentation, like in my surprise scenario.
Wow, good job, Melissa. Wow, I want to go back and change my answer to the surprise scenario.
You already did it.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to copy off of, I think it was Audrey. I'm going to definitely adopt the capybara because they're cute as shit. And I would just love to have one. Take the whale to the no-kill shelter?
Yeah.
Because it's majestic.
Yeah. Oh, and because, we already set up a spoiler alert. The whale dies at the end of the movie. So in this case, it won't die because it's going to the no-kill shelter. So I'll feel a little bit better about it. And then I'll taxidermy the flood. Because I just feel like that'd be an interesting piece to have up. I don't know how I would fit it anywhere, but it might be cool just to check out a flood.
Hell yeah. I'm into that. All right. You got anything else, Melissa?
Nope, that's it, Paul.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us this episode and listening to us talk about the movie Flow. It was awesome. The movie's great. Go see it if you haven't checked it out yet. And if you stick around with us next month, we'll be doing the 1996 family adventure film Fly Away Home, featuring a gaggle of geese. So if you like the show, please go ahead and check us out on Apple, Spotify. Give us a like, give us a review. Go check out our social channels like Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to see even more cool in-depth stuff, check out our website where you can see a full transcript of this episode and links to the sources that we mentioned. I want to say a final thank you to my co-hosts, Audrey, Jordan, and Melissa. I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Good job, guys.
Bye.
Hey.
I'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to Hoofin' It in Hollywood. This podcast has been produced by Paul, Audrey, Melissa, and Jordan. Please note that this content is intended for entertainment purposes only. We are not professional researchers, and the views and opinions expressed are our own. For more information and links to the resources mentioned in this episode, please check the show notes or visit our website at bit.ly/Hoofin-Hollywood. If you found this episode enjoyable and wish to support the podcast, we kindly ask you to like, subscribe, and leave a rating or review on your preferred podcast platform.